Great, thanks so much for having me. As I mentioned, my name is Kyle. I'm the head of product at the Rumie initiative. And really, despite how the guest speaker is supposed to be here to apparently inspire everyone, I'm actually been really inspired by everyone here. It sounds like quite a diverse group. I'm really excited to be here and see how this night unfolds and what types of projects you're all working on. So I'm really excited to share more about Rumie, but also learn more about what everyone's working on here. So a bit more about the Rumie initiative. Rumie is an edtech nonprofit that was founded in 2013 to basically bring the surge of free digital learning content that you can find online to underserved, remote, and disconnected environments around the world through low-cost technology. We've scaled to over 28 countries. I think this slide's showing 23, but yeah, we've recently hit the 28 mark. We work with clients like UNICEF, Junior Achievement, Right to Play, selling this platform to enable offline learning. So I'll get into a bit more details about how we came to be and what we do, how it works, and then ultimately pose you guys with a challenge in terms of what we're kind of working on and what we want to do next. So when Rumie started, we took a look at the disruptive, whatever you want to call it, the disruptive scaling organizations of today using scaling technologies and how they're disrupting old models. So if you look at hotels, really, their scaling model is quite linear. Obviously, Airbnb exponential. With hotels is a high upfront cost, but with some of these sharing economies, they're leveraging sharing economy to decrease the cost. And ultimately, the build, measure, learn feedback loop of using data to make better decisions has been prevalent in everything we do. And so when you're looking at, okay, how do we apply this type of model to the nonprofit social impact space, we came up with Rumie, and really what the whole model and the economics around it is really taking a look at, today, in today's day and age, we can really learn anything for free online. So those who are connected to the internet, you can learn anything you want through YouTube, Coursera, etc. And I'm sure many of us here have. But also the bandwidth and hardware costs are plummeting around the world, and that access to devices and hardware is becoming ever more accessible. I think by 2020, it's funny saying 2020 now because it seems like such a long way away, but it's next year. But by 2020, I think they expect like 6 billion smartphones being used around the world. That's just as many humans that are around. So it's, as you can see, this quite prevalent, and a lot of people are using technology. So taking a look at this model, we thought, how can we disrupt the education space? So we came up with what I'll tell you a bit more about today. The traditional model of education is really high upfront cost. You're buying textbooks. You're implementing. You're trying to find out what that right solution is by doing long RCTs, etc. And what we found is, throughout running Rumie, that this model can work in the to disrupt the traditional model as well. So we'll get into a bit more about how it works. I think also working in kind of the nonprofit social impact space, starting out, we really wanted to gather around and work with supporters that were working in this type of model. So, we're back with some of the best in tech, including Google, YC, Atlassian. We work into the DMZ, Loyalty One, etc. And working with these organizations has really helped us think differently about how we can work in the nonprofit space and provide meaningful, valuable solutions. So I'm going to show you a quick video, if this works, of just a high-level overview of what we do. Never mind. watch it without sound.
Can you narrate it for us?
Sure. I mean, it's probably easier if I just do it next slide. This is a bit easier to describe. So this is really how it works. So through the Learn Cloud, we crowdsource free learning content from around the world through crowdsource model. We work with volunteers and educators, communities and NGOs to upload their content to the Learn Cloud, which is then evaluated, classified, and curated for offline use. So we partner with NGOs, offline learning partners that are, like in that previous video, Kepler, they're a education nonprofit based in Rwanda. They work in offline refugee camps across the country, distributing technology to the refugee camps, specifically for education. And this is essentially how it works. We distribute this content through either the Rumie tablet product or the Rumie app to the offline environment, and we enable the collection of analytics for both reporting purposes for whoever might be purchasing the solution and being able to report back the impact, but also for us to iterate on the product itself. I think many of us are privileged to work with online technologies and collect analytics on a instant basis. What's challenging kind of working in this offline setting is you don't always have access to your end users, you don't always have access to the analytics. So ultimately, we kind of encourage our clients and those who are working offline to sync that back, and that enables us to make both product decisions, but also provide valuable insights to whoever's running the program. And I wanted to keep this conversational, so if anyone has questions during the talk, feel free to jump in.
How often do you guys send things? Or is it
It's kind of,
is it just whenever they can?
It's whenever they can. Normally we see every 3 months or so.
Could you repeat the questions that people do ask?
Sorry, how often do we sync back analytics? So that's every 3 months or so.
When they sync back the analytics, they also get updated on the education.
Yeah, so while the analytics come back, they can, if they have, I'll get into more of those details around what we're building, but if they do have a Wi-Fi connection, which some of them do, depending on where they can actually take the product, they actually can push all the updates as well onto those devices. So to get into the Learn Cloud a little bit, this is our online repository of the free learning content. And the way we've kind of grown that so far and some different ways that we're growing it is, working with organizations through this idea of transformative volunteerism. So instead of being, checking in your time and thinking of this volunteering as a transactional process, we take skills from organizations through working with them in their CSR initiatives or and running campaigns with different organizations to have skilled workers share their knowledge and expertise on specific subjects that are then used by our partners. Ultimately, channeling energy to impactful content and creating a meaningful experience for those who are contributing. I'm going to skip this because it's a video. But this is Kepler. They're the client in Rwanda that we work with. Like I said, they're using our technology across 6 different refugee camps, where they are running this program called Ateme, which means bridge in Kinyarwanda, and it's basically to bridge the gap between Rwandans, well, not necessarily, they can be Congolese, or depending on where they're coming from around the country into those refugee camps, using Rumie to increase the enrollment of those refugees into their program, which is headquartered in Kigali, the capital, and then they have another campus in Kiziba, which is another camp in western Rwanda, which is something interesting there. They're doing great work. So some other ways that our technology is being used throughout different areas of the world. So actually in Canada, I like the land acknowledgement, that was great. The Learn Cloud has actually become the largest repository of Indigenous languages in Canada, and we work with organizations across Canada, primarily out of North Bay and Northern Ontario right now, where it's very focused on language preservation. So we have individuals and organizations contributing their content, primarily for language preservation, but also for other initiatives in the education sector, working in Indigenous programs. In Syria, they found it particularly useful in terms of cost savings. So when it comes to like funding for relief and in crisis situations, I mean, that funding needs to go to many different places and for many different causes, and education is not always the first on the list. So having a very affordable solution is beneficial, and we've seen this being primarily a benefit to those who are working in Syria. We work with UNICEF in Jordan, in the Zatari camp, which is just off the Syrian border with Syrian refugees, and the Al Salam school, which is in Syria. We see a lot of spillover effects. So while we're seen as this organization that works primarily with kids, we also see that the benefits are seen across families and communities. So while we have kids in school using the tablets and they use them in different ways, there's the library model, so they may decide to check one out, or they may have a one-to-one model depending on the organization that we're working with. We also see these spillover effects where, in the day-to-day use of the tablet in the school is useful for the child, but then if the child takes it home, we've actually pulled analytics and we've seen our tablets being used, late into the night in some of these areas, and we found that was actually coming from usage from parents and engagement from others that were in the community. So while it's not always easy to measure, we see these spillover effects, which are quite interesting. Learning engagement has been something that's huge. Just the fact that we provide technology is something that's very interesting and engaging for students and kids who don't have access to this. So the idea of just being able to hold a tablet and use it is something that's impacted a lot of lives and something that we've seen be a key kind of factor to our growth. This is Abel. He's the head of Camp for Peace, this program in Nigeria. He was a child soldier during the Civil War and just was decided to start this school, and he's a great leader and doing some great work. Even in Toronto, we're actually using our technology for immigrant integration. So we work with Woodgreen Community Services to offer our tablets to recently immigrated people who are looking to immigrate and integrate themselves into the society here. So they work on things like language acquisition, cultural fluency, etc. And there's a few key features of our tablet, like content lockdown, and like I said, the cost as well, that keeps this useful for this type of use case. So that's kind of how Rumie has kind of grown and kind of where we're at now. And I think over the past year or so, we've really been focused on these two questions. And this is kind of where I want to leave it up to the group here to help provide some advice or just think about how we might be able to hack something together. But basically, we've gotten this proof of concept and product market fit in terms of our tablet and our app, but we're looking to really scale this now. So what we've focused on for the past few months is this self-sufficient model and increasing the autonomy for our users and our clients. So key two questions that I've been answering and working towards is how might we increase autonomy for our clients? So when they come to Rumie, how can we take them through the entire process of being interested in Rumie, to signing up, to creating a project, to getting this content that they may not fully, in some cases they don't know what they need. So how do we recommend and provide relevant content in that localized area? And then also the shipping and configuration of tablets is a whole other thing. But the whole idea is how do we get to this automated process where we can actually scale this, make a larger impact. And then also how can we improve accessibility overall? So with all those different use cases, there's obviously many different types of challenges and edge cases to consider. How can we improve accessibility, both from a usability standpoint, but also, like I said, the onboarding and end-to-end flow of the platform as well. So idea of where we are and where we're going, if we can really nail down these questions. In 2017, we had about 25,000 learners using the Rumie tablet specifically. We released the Rumie app last year, working with Roshan Telecom in Afghanistan, the largest telco in Afghanistan. So we used that market as kind of the first one that we wanted to work in, just given that the conditions there are tough, and if we can really nail down a good model of working on the ground and working with those partners there, we felt like that's something that we can scale out into maybe easier. Should say easier because they're all quite challenging, but how can we translate what we've done there into other markets? And ultimately, where this growth is all really coming from is this bet on telcos. So working with Roshan, and we've been talking to a few others in Africa and Asia as well. But the idea is, once we have all this free learning content, how do we open up the accessibility and scale it out? So this year, we're really focused on the Afghan partners, those in the Middle East, and our Canadian partners, and we're thinking with our projections and where we're at with more of this automation is really getting to around 130,000. We're about at 50,000 now, so we hit that mark, and the next step is getting to that next phase. So with these key questions that I have, that's really kind of where with answering those and working towards answering those, that's really where I see us growing. So really, with the idea of focusing on scale, we have those other challenges like logistics, etc. But what's also really important to consider when moving forward with this is how can we increase the quality and relevance of content and the learning materials available on the web. So this is one of the big questions, and this is what I was hoping to leave with the Civic Tech TO group to help hack together and think about, because I think it's a really interesting challenge, and I think it's really very interesting and very challenging, and I think the impact that it could have is quite large as well with all the work that we're doing. And so I turn it over to you guys to maybe ask questions or provide some insight on that.
So I'll make a suggestion that we take a few questions for Kyle, and then we'll be doing a separate pitch. When we break out into groups, come find Kyle, and you guys can hack away on those questions together. But if you have any questions for him now, just shout it out. Go ahead. Ben?
Yeah, thanks. So I was wondering how much autonomy your partners give you typically, and how that might tie in with the next phase of the content creation that you're talking about. So for example, if a project's generated, would you have to run it by your partner in the particular neighborhood that you're going to? Or could you just assume that they're on board because they trust you? What's the modus operandi?
Yeah, so good question. It was around rephrasing it. It's around what's the balance or trade-off between complete automation versus self-service completely with the content, or how much we influence on that. Is that kind of correct?
Yeah, just about the partner's control over what you publish.
The content partners or the
Yeah.
audience partners?
No, the partner's control over content. So whatever lessons you're planning on giving, you have to identify them first.
Oh yeah. So the Learn Cloud really. So the Learn Cloud is a crowdsourced repository of content, and then the partner has access to that content to then use in their program, but they also have the ability to upload their own. We find a lot of partners even want to just use their own content, and that's totally fine, and we work with them to do that. But the idea around the Learn Cloud is to really kickstart your project, let's say, ideally, eventually, as the content grows, 100% of the way, where we can provide 100% of the relevant content for that area. But right now we're about 60%, so we provide about 60% of that relevant content. We work with them on guiding them through recommendations from other partners in that localized area, or allowing them to also upload their own content that they can use, which often includes a process for them to digitize the content, so that a lot of their content may be in books or in other areas. So they need to often go through that process, which they often can't do because they don't have the resources or the tools to do that. So that's also creates other challenges on the ground, but the ability to enable them to upload it is kind of what we're working on and what we offer.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
In the back?
I was wondering if there's a way that content creators can be compensated financially.
Yeah, so is there a way for content creators to be compensated for adding their resources to the Learning Cloud? We actually, at the moment, don't have a model around that. So the idea, why do you think this is potentially really empowering and exciting is because I think there's a few other organizations that have tried to do similar things in the past. I see the Learning Cloud being one piece, and then the offline delivery being another piece of Rumie. And the Learning Cloud piece is interesting. I think there's a lot of companies that have tried to do this crowdsource model, but what Rumie has is the impact and the ability to see how your volunteering efforts are being used in the field, and that's really what we're working towards, is how can we engage and excite people to add their own content and add content to the Learning Cloud to then empower and create an impact in the world. So right now we crowdsource primarily through volunteering, but we're also working on this next iteration where we're thinking more about content creators specifically. So we've been approached by and work with quite a few organizations. So we have like MIT Courseware is on the Learn Cloud, a few other organizations that we've worked with upload their content, but right now it's really just pieces of content, not necessarily like these content channels or content partner channels. So for them, some of these larger organizations, they want to see how their content can, how they can increase the usage of their content regardless if it's offline, online, if they're getting paid for it, they want to spread their content. So we try to work with those organizations in doing that. I don't know, I hope that answers your question.
Let me know if I missed this part. Under one license with the content on Learn Cloud and has Rumie ever tried to, I guess, collaborate with other open source, open knowledge movements around the world?
Yeah, so we've, it's all OER content, so open educational resources, and we've talked to a lot of other organizations doing similar things, and yeah, we don't work with one specific license. The idea is to have all of our content open.
Imagine you have, on the audience side, clients and learners, right?
Yeah.
So is there like a typical number of learners that come with each client, or are they really all over the place? How does that?
Yeah, it ranges. So, as we grow and as we scale, we want to work with larger organizations, and we are like working with UNICEF, for example. They're obviously huge, and they have millions of people that they support, and so it varies from client to client, and our platform supports that. So we enable like multiple projects within a specific organization, each project having its unique area that it's operating in, and which can then have like any number of learners or teachers assigned to that specific project.
Any other questions for you?
Yeah, I had one question. So, as a designer, you're typically asked if you're working for an environment that's a little remote to keep it a little more simple because of the bandwidth. Sometimes loading takes longer. Have you had a workaround, or how does it work for you?
Yeah, right.
Can you repeat the question?
Yeah, so it's around how do you get around bandwidth costs and
Slow loading times.
slow loading, downloading times in those offline environments? Is that around that? So that's a good question. We're in the process of building out, on the coming soon is the ability to load a lot of the Learn Cloud onto local servers that we can then deploy to offline environments. So there's a few people in the space doing similar work where they literally offer terabytes of data and terabytes of information in a just on a local server in a classroom that everyone in that environment can then access. So the idea is to work towards that, but offer the workout in a way that's a bit more accessible. But right now, through the bandwidth cost and things like that, yeah, it's challenging, and it kind of depends on the environment. So sometimes they'll take the hardware to their local center, like maybe 5 hours away from a refugee camp in some cases, and sync content and sync the information there. We use a lot of SD cards, so right now it's a bit of a manual process, and the idea is, like, our next iteration is to automate that as much as possible by bringing as much content as we can on site through a server type environment.
What sort of content does a Rumie platform like content creators, like what sort of content is that platform? Like video,
Oh, yeah,
written
so-
content?
Yeah, it's all right now. It's PDFs, Android apps. So Android apps and video as well. So, what type of file formats and content is the platform optimized for? And the answer is video, PDFs, and Android apps. So since we have the tablet, we also enable anyone to add like an Android app to the platform that can then be used in that project. So while the tablet uses all of our content and resources, it also enables that local partner to add whatever specific Android app that might work in their localized environment and in their context to the tablet as well, and sync it all through our platform. So there's often different language apps out there that are optimized for offline use on the Play Store. So they just simply like take the Play Store. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, Kyle. And it sounds like Kyle will be sticking around, so you can come find him when we break out into project time if you're looking to hack away on something tonight and the Rumie initiative sounds like your jam.